Hi everyone, me again, back with another 7 movies, choice movies from 1997, my own little personal 1997 two-week film festival if you happen to want to watch one movie per night or per day. These would be, I think, good choices here. We left off with Abre los Ojos, aka Open Your Eyes, the Alejandro Amenabar Spanish movie, which is a bit of a science fiction twist that got remade as Vanilla Sky by Cameron Crowe and Tom Cruise. The next film I'd like to talk about is U-Turn, which is the latest film from Oliver Stone. At that time was the latest film for Oliver Stone. I just learned recently that he is making a movie about Edward Snowden with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and that's something that I'll look forward to very much. I haven't been super enthused about Stallone's recent movies, but he was on quite a roll in the 90s. You know, he was after Born on the 4th of July, and then he had, you know, Natural Born Killers, and Nixon, and The Doors, and JFK, and then he comes out with this. And this is much less serious fare than his political dramas. Sean Penn is the main character, and he arrives in a small town with a couple of missing fingers and a bag full of money, which I think he stole, and then he gets into a lot of trouble with the people in the town, none of whom know who he is and know the kind of trouble that he's in, but he manages to get himself in deep anyway. Jennifer Lopez is a local sort of honey trap who he takes an immediate shine to, and of course she's no good. She's a very shady character, and there's a lot of shady characters in this. Powers Booth, Joaquin Phoenix, I can't even remember, Nick Nolte's in this movie, I can't even remember half the cast. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I really did enjoy it quite a bit. Then there's Crash. Crash came out in the early months of the year. I actually got a little sneak preview of this on video before it was in theaters. Crash, of course, is not the Best Picture winner from 2005. It's a film directed by David Cronenberg. And it's an adaptation of a book by J.G. Ballard. It involves characters who are turned on by car accidents. Yeah, I don't know if that's really a thing, but, you know, Cronenberg specializes in the weird, and I think this is probably the last movie I was really excited about by Cronenberg, and not excited in like, ooh, this is really going to be salacious, but in terms of being a good movie. I kind of soured on Cronenberg's style in recent years. He just takes things way too slowly. Conversations are just not paced very well. But Crash is a really decent movie. It made my top 10 that year. The main character is James Spader, who gets in a car crash and has a broken leg, basically. And he sort of encounters this subculture of people who get into car accidents on purpose because they are interested in distorting their bodies, something like that. Anyway, he gets involved with Holly Hunter, who was the person that he had a head-on collision with in the literal sense. His wife, Deborah Unger, is also getting involved with some of these people as well. Elias Koteas, I think Rosanna Arquette's in the movie as well. It's a really kind of strange movie, but noteworthy. If you have a choice between this and Titanic, go for Crash. It's an unusual film. Everyone, has seen Titanic. Everyone knows all about that. Anyway, moving on to Citizen Ruth. This was the movie that I mentioned in my previous installment. The movie that came out on my birthday that I wasn't actually aware of. I did eventually get to see it in the summer, and boy, I really liked it. It's a very, very dark comedy from Alexander Payne. He went on to do, of course, Election and The Descendants and Nebraska and About Schmidt, films like that. Citizen Ruth is one of his very best movies, if not the best that he's done. The main character is played by Laura Dern. She's an extremely immature adult. She's a drug addict. She huffs paint. She's gotten accidentally pregnant several times and had abortions. She gets arrested basically for drugs, and so when she finds out she's pregnant yet again, the judge orders her to have an abortion, and then some pro-life activists come along and say, "Oh, wait a second, we could provide a good life for this baby. Why don't you let us adopt the baby, our organization?" And then some pro-choice activists are like, "Hey, you shouldn't take away her choice. If she wants to have an abortion," and Laura Dern's being like, "I don't want to have an abortion. It's just all these people want all this stuff from me, and I just want to be a good time gal." Yeah, she's not a very bright character. There's a really good cast in this movie. A lot of good character actors. Kurtwood Smith Swoozie Kurtz, excuse me, Kelly Preston, Burt Reynolds pops up in a supporting part. But yeah, it's just like basically one of those movies where all the characters have something unlikable about them. There's no one really to root for. It's sort of a comedy of... oh, I guess actually MC Gainey is a character that I would root for, probably. He seems pretty cool. But yeah, it's a very, very black comedy. Very black. Good one. Definitely a good one. I wish I'd known that that was coming out that day, because I would have seen it. Next, we have L.A. Confidential, a really high Oscar-nominated picture right here. Didn't do great business at the box office, but I think anyone who sees this movie will agree that it's a really well-done crime thriller. Based on a novel by James Ellroy, it's an incredibly elaborate story with hundreds of characters, really, really well adapted by the screenwriter Brian Hageland, and was directed by Curtis Hanson, who went on to do Wonder Boys, a Michael Douglas movie. L.A. Confidential's got, of course, a huge cast, mostly focused on some LAPD officers played by Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce and Kevin Spacey and James Cromwell, as they're trying to solve the murder of a mass murder, basically, in a late-night coffee shop called the Night Owl. One of the victims happened to be a cop, so they're very intent on catching these guys. Of course, there's a big conspiracy and there's a lot of shady business going on involving politicians and what have you. It's really, really terrific movie. A lot of really good, strong performances in there. Very forceful acting. Really like the movie a lot. Oh, and David Strathairn. Always like David Strathairn. He has a supporting part. He's great. And Kim Basinger, of course, won an Oscar. Supporting actress for this movie as well. Then we have The Game. The Game is the David Fincher's follow-up to Seven, one of my favorite movies of all time. And The Game is actually one of the movies I like. If I had to divide David Fincher's filmography in half, with the best on one end and the one I like the least, Benjamin Button, on the other end, The Game would actually fall in the upper half of that category right there. He's made some terrific movies. The Game is something I have special affection for, I guess. You know, I'm sort of a junkie for 90s stuff. Anyway, the main character is played by Michael Douglas. He's this very wealthy investment banker. He owns like an entire company, and he receives a birthday present. He's turning 48 years old. He receives a birthday present from his brother, played by Sean Penn, actually, who gives him basically the gift of an experiential book club, basically like an adventure, a real-life adventure in which he encounters all these challenges. And it turns out they involve getting chased around by police dogs and having to clean up hotel rooms full of like illegal drugs and all kinds of craziness involving getting trapped in elevators and what have you. There's a purpose behind it all, which isn't made clear immediately. But yeah, it's a really interesting mystery thriller. It's kind of like, is it a mystery? Is it not? Is it just all a big adventure? Is he actually in harm's way in some cases? I mean, he gets trapped in a taxi that goes into like the river or something like that, and there's a possibility he might die or something. So there's this big question of, you know, is this actually, you know, am I actually in danger or not? It's kind of cool, kind of a cool movie. Finally, two movies that were among the very best movies that I saw that year. Starship Troopers by Paul Verhoeven, which is a great satire, full of incredible special effects. I always said that if this society, this very military-geared society existed in the 24th century, this movie would be their Top Gun. It would be like the movie they would get to show people, to encourage them to join the military. Of course, there's a high satirical content in there involving sort of the lampooning of the square-jawed American hero type. The opposing force, of course, is alien insects, but of course we ended up invading their territory. They're just sort of protecting their own worlds, so the humans are really the bad guys. Not to mention all the fascist imagery in the movie. You know, it's very much like Nazis in space. It's like the worst, most cliched episode of 90210, with all these young people in their dating relationships, but set in the future in a space-based Nazi war society, something like that. It's crazy. It's amazing that they were actually able to make it and put so much money into it. It's a really, really good movie. Finally, I'd like to talk about Jackie Brown, which is Quentin Tarantino's follow-up to Pulp Fiction. And it was the only movie so far that he's adapted from someone else's work. It was a novel called Rum Punch. Who's it by? Darn, I forgot the name of the author. Anyway, Pam Grier is the main character. She's a stewardess who is transporting money illegally for a local crime, gun runner, played by Samuel L. Jackson. She gets caught and by the feds, and they want her to keep transporting money so they can catch Samuel L. Jackson and arrest him. And her options are really limited career-wise, so she's sort of working out a plan to kind of gain the advantage on everyone without the cops being the wiser, because they'll put her in prison like that if they find out that she's being shady with them. Michael Keaton plays one of the feds. Robert Forster's in it. Really was not familiar with Robert Forster prior to this movie, and to be honest, this movie didn't convince me that he is a really great actor. I liked him. I think he's a very agreeable personality, but he got a supporting actor nomination for this movie. I'm like, geez, you could have nominated anybody in this movie, including Robert De Niro, or Bridget Fonda, for that matter, but instead they nominated Robert Forster. I'm not really sure why. Anyway, one of Quentin Tarantino's more understated and mature films. Yeah, a really good one. So that's 14 movies in total for 97. If you weren't already aware, check the video description below for the playlist, which will have all the videos that I'm doing for this series. If you missed the previous 1997 video or any of the ones I've done so far, you can check them out there. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for commenting. Really appreciate the comments. I'll see you again real soon with 1998. Later.